While sure, Hercules the Legendary Journeys had its own charm, the arguably more memorable TV show from that time period was Xena Warrior Princess, the sister show produced owing to the popularity of the character Xena, played by the gorgeous Lucy Lawless. Since then, fans of this show, both old and new, have been curious about the warrior princess and her family tree. So, in this video, we decided to take a deep dive into her life and figure out which family members meant the most to Xena and how they affected her character for better or for worse. But if you're new here and clicked on the video because curiosity got the best of you, then allow me to tell you about Xena first. Like Hercules, Xena was also a legendary figure known throughout the country of Greece in ancient times. However, Xena's reputation was not as positive as Hercules. Instead, hers was the polar opposite. She was hailed as the destroyer of nations, and rightfully so. Xena was one of the feared warlords roaming about in ancient Greece, and wherever she went, destruction and chaos followed. As we know, no child is born cruel, and that was the same way for Xena. In her late teens, Xena witnessed warlord Cortes raiding her village. She refused to sit there and do nothing and banded together a group of men to go against the warlord. In the fight that followed, one of her brothers was killed. This led to her being kicked out of the village, forbidding her from returning home. This betrayal from her so-called family pushed her down the path of destruction. However, she was redeemed by Hercules. This redemption was explored in the series where Xena went on several adventures through various subcontinents of the world, righting her wrongs and fixing her reputation in the process. This heart-touching redemption arc was portrayed beautifully by Lucy Lawless, and hence Xena's large fan base was born. Now that you know who she is, let's take a look at her family tree. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Nello Father. Let's first start off the family tree with Xena's father. Now, this is a hot topic of debate between the Xena Warrior Princess fans because of how Ares behaves throughout the series. A lot of people think that Ares, who used to be Xena's mentor and guide, is actually her biological father, making Xena a demigod. This theory is based on Ares' statement about how Xena is his blood, and only Xena's descendants would be able to free him from his fate in Season 2. But if we were to actually believe this theory, then the whole dynamic between Ares and Xena would change. Time and time again, Ares and Xena were seen exchanging flirtatious statements. So, if he is her father, then oh boy, that is something. In episode 20 of Season 1, Ties That Bind, an old man appears trying to free a woman who is being held hostage. This man identifies himself as Atreus, the Spartan who is Xena's biological father. Now, Xena has not met her father since she was a wee little baby. She had heard about him from her mother and knew that her father was a Spartan with quite a mysterious past. So when Atreus claimed to be her father, she didn't doubt him. But by the end of the episode, we learned that this was Ares impersonating her father to revert Xena back to her ruthless ways. So, did he never exist? Well, not exactly. Nello is only ever shown explicitly on one occasion. That was in the comic book titled Plowshares into Swords. Here, we learn about Nello, the Spartan man who married Cyrene, Xena's mother. Their coupling resulted in the unexpected birth of Xena. Despite the unexpectedness of her birth, she was very much loved by both of her parents. But when she was a toddler, her father disappeared. It was assumed that the man had left his family in Argos. But the truth was far darker. Nello had anger issues. He would get blacked out mad when he was angry. During one such episode of blackout rage, he almost attacked and killed Xena. Cyrene, the mama bear of the century, was not going to let that happen and decided to axe her husband to death and pretend like the man had left. Xena learned the truth about her father's sudden disappearance from the Furies when she had a run-in with him later in the series. But then again, in this episode itself, Xena and Gabrielle doubled down on the whole Ares is Xena's father lore to save Cyrene from the punishment of murder. As that worked, fans of the show are still not quite sure if Nello is the father or if Ares is. But as Nello is shown to be the father in the comic book we mentioned, we'll give him the credit as her true parent. Sirene Mother. If there is one woman who single-handedly molded Xena's personality to be as brutal as it is, it has to be Cyrene herself. Ever since her childhood, Xena has always been very close to Cyrene. Especially after her father went out of the picture, Cyrene became quite involved in the lives of her daughter and 2 sons. This close bond that she shared with her children resulted in the downward spiral of one of them. One fine morning in Amphipolis, the warlord named Cortes showed up. He was there to loot and plunder. Xena decided that if all the villagers banded together to stop the warlord, they could prevent him from coming back. So she got some people together and went against the plunderer in question. The warlord killed off her brother Lycius. This broke Cyrene's heart into a million pieces, and she ostracized Xena since she was the one who wanted to gather troops in the first place. This led to Xena spiraling into the ruthless warlord that we know her as. Later, Xena showed up in Amphipolis trying to warn the villagers about the warlord Draco, who had his eyes set on the village. Cyrene acted cold and distant towards Xena, and instead of believing her, she pushed her away. However, this time around, Cyrene came around when she saw Xena fighting to save the villagers. This event repaired the mother-daughter relationship, which I personally think helped a lot in Xena's journey as a hero. Further down the series, we learn about Cyrene killing Nello, which she did not get punished for thanks to Xena and Gabrielle's quick thinking. However, the murder of Nello burdened Cyrene even after her death, which was a little unfair in my opinion. Killing off an abusive husband is a queen's work, and she shouldn't have been chased by the guilt of this murder. But then again, this made her character more realistic, and I appreciate that a lot. Lycius Brother. Lycius is Xena's younger brother. Since her childhood, Xena has been super close to him. They would go and fish together in the village lake, competing to see who caught Solaris, the biggest fish in the lake. However, when Xena finally did catch Solaris, Lycius was not around for her to celebrate this event with. When Cortes showed up in Amphipolis, Lycius was the one who supported Xena's plan to stand up to the cruel warlord. With this support, Xena faced off against Cortes, but at the end of the fight, Lycius had passed away. This led to Cyrene forbidding Xena from ever returning to Amphipolis. This ostracization, along with the loss of her closest brother, spiraled Xena down the path of destruction. Throughout the series, whenever Xena talked about her death, she told Gabrielle how much she wanted to be buried next to her brother. So you can understand the pain that she truly felt when she lost him. So given how monumental this event is, do you think Xena would change it if she was given the chance to change the past? Well, when she was given an opportunity, Xena did in fact go for it. In this alternate reality that was a gift to Xena from the Fates Temple, Lycius was alive. However, Cyrene was dead in this reality and Gabrielle was a slave. Xena was warned that if she were to spill even a drop of blood in this timeline, the whole reality would collapse and disappear. With that in mind, Xena did her best to live out her life in this particular alternative setting of events. However, eventually, she realized that this life was not for her and decided to end it all, bidding a heartbreaking goodbye to her favorite brother. Taurus Brother. Xena mentioned offhandedly that she had more than one brother, but we never truly got to hear about her other brothers until the episode titled Death Mask. Here we learn about Taurus, Xena's older brother. He was one of the villagers who decided to retreat when Cortes raided the village. Because of this separation, Xena assumed that Taurus was dead as well. But that wasn't quite right. The death of Lycius weighed heavily on Taurus because he felt responsible. In his eyes, if he had not run away, maybe Lycius would not have died so young. That is why Taurus instead joined Cortes's men, hoping to climb up the ranks in order to get close enough to Cortes for his revenge. This plan was not working out too well for him because Taurus never respected Mallet, Cortes's right-hand man. Because of that, Taurus never got to the position that he had his eyes on. However, being Cortes's foot soldier worked out in his favor because this is how he was reunited with Xena. When the two siblings reunited, they took the opportunity to reminisce about their fallen brother, and that was when Xena learned about Taurus's plans. She was against Taurus staining his hands with Cortes's blood, as killing the warlord would not give him the satisfaction that he sought. Taurus did not necessarily feel the same way, but the siblings worked together, despite their disagreement, to find out where the warlord was. Once they found Cortes, Taurus listened to Xena and left him alive, but defeated. With that victory, Taurus went back to Cyrene in Amphipolis to live out the rest of his days in peace and without the guilt of having his brother Lycius' death weighing down on his shoulders. Baras Lover. Baras is one of the many love interests that we get to see Xena have throughout the series. Crippled after her crucifixion in the hands of Julius Caesar, Xena was on the run in Europe, where she had a run-in with Baras. Baras was a warlord in Hungary, where he lived with his wife Natasha and son Belek. Despite being a married man, he got into an affair with Xena. When he was caught, without any hesitation, Baras chose Xena and left Natasha and Belek behind. They became the most destructive duo, popular for their ruthlessness. However, after Xena goes through her redemption, she works actively to prevent Baras' evil exploits. Although their relationship was rather strained, Baras excitedly waited for the birth of their son, Solen, but he was killed at the hands of Dagnine, Xena's lieutenant, before Solen was born. After his death, Baras was not remembered for his evil exploits, though. He was fondly remembered for befriending centaurs and preventing their genocide. Talk about not judging the book by its cover. Hercules, fiancé in series, husband in comic. Xena was first introduced in Hercules: The Legendary Journeys as a warlord planning to kill Hercules. However, eventually she goes through a redemption arc with Hercules' help, and that leads to a whole new separate series where we see her adventures as she proceeds to right her wrongs. But was her relationship with Hercules romantic? Well, it was. Xena loved Hercules a lot, especially because how close they had become while they worked together on bettering her. That's why, in the series, even though they went as far as to get engaged, the two never got married, because Xena realized that her journey to fix everything she broke was far more important. But don't worry, dear Hercules and Xena shippers. The comics, titled Marriage of Hercules and Xena, gave us what we truly wanted. Xena and Hercules got married indeed. While sure, the marriage was a ruse to lure out Ares and the Fury he was working with to save the village they married in, they did get married. That's more than enough to satisfy us shippers.
My uncle says she was wonderful. She never thought bad things about anyone.
Solen, son with Baras. Solen is the son of Baras and Xena. But more than that, he was the child that Alti feared would turn Xena good. That is why Alti placed a curse on Solen. Xena knew that people would target her son when she heard about Baras' death, so she decided to send Solen to the Centaurs. Now, the Centaurs didn't have a good relationship with Xena, but when it came to Baras, the story was quite different. So they agreed to keep Solen as he was Baras' son. Roughly a decade later, when Xena met with Solen, she was heartbroken to learn that her son thought she was the reason Baras was killed. Xena cleared out the confusion and repaired her reputation in Solen's eyes. But she didn't have the courage to tell him who she actually was. This turned out to be a mistake, because soon Solen was slain by Gabrielle's daughter Hope as revenge. This death led to Xena and Gabrielle fighting a brutal war, which was eventually brought to an end by Solen, who took them to Elusia and forced them to make up. Later, Solen was taken to the Elysian field by Xena when she entered the underworld to steal the helmet of invisibility and found him stuck in hell.
I'm glad you came back. Killing you must be part of my destiny.
Eve, daughter, reincarnation of Callisto. One of the biggest villains in Xena Warrior Princess is Callisto, the psychotic warlord with a vendetta against Xena. To make up for all the troubles that she had caused Xena all this time, she planted life in Xena. The baby that came out as a result of this predicament was Eve, the sister of Solen, the messenger of Eli. Eve was considered to be a threat to Olympian gods, as she was the messenger of Eli, the man who believed in gods not having superiority over humans. So, to save her daughter, Xena and Gabrielle decided to fake their own deaths to trick them. This led to Eve's upbringing in Rome and becoming a cruel fighter named Livia, the bitch of Rome. When Xena woke up after 25 years, she helped Eve reform from her Livia identity. Xena was even gifted the power to slaughter gods to protect Eve, and eventually, Once everything was done, Eve, like her mother, went around Greece to repent for the crimes she had committed as Livia. Gabrielle, friend, lover. Since the show aired, there was no doubt in the minds of the viewers that Gabrielle was not just a friend to Xena. The way they worked, it was very clear that Gabrielle and Xena were like soulmates. Gabrielle was a young girl from Paideia who was engaged to be married to a man whom she did not have any intention of marrying. When Xena came to her village, Gabrielle decided that she wanted the taste of the life that Xena was living. When Xena refused to take Gabrielle with her, Gabrielle decided to simply follow her to Amphipolis, while proving to us why she would be the perfect companion for our protagonist. Once Gabrielle saved Xena's life from the angry mob of Amphipolis, the latter had no other choice but to accept Gabrielle as her companion. As the series went on, their relationship became closer, and moments like Gabrielle waking Xena up with a kiss, or Xena tracking down Gabrielle's favorite poet, Sappho, for a poem showed that what these two had was deeper than friendship. This is how the warrior princess ended up with the traveling bard of Paideia, also known as the Amazon Queen.
My death was not your fault. Things had to play out the way they did.
Marcus, love interest. What happens when you end up befriending a lady who is working to take down your boss? Well, according to Marcus, the arms dealer under Mezentius, you fall in love with her. Mezentius was the ex-employer of Xena and Marcus, and he was a bad man. Xena reached out to Mezentius and Marcus for arms, but that was not the real reason for her return to their lives. Actually, Xena was working to free a girl that Mezentius had kidnapped. So when Marcus and Xena started getting closer, there was not a single doubt that this was not going to end well. And as expected, it did not. When Mezentius learned that Marcus was helping Xena, he killed his trusted employee. After a few months, Marcus was back in the living world, but not permanently. He was sent by Hades to bring Xena to help with the state of hell and bring the helmet of invisibility to him. After Xena finished her work, she managed to convince Hades to put Marcus in the Elysian fields instead of keeping him in Tartarus. Marvelous verdict. Other than being a strong and dashing character, Xena is a very grounded, realistic human being. Her relationships with her parents, her friends, and her lovers are very believable. When you first see her, you think Xena is this selfish and ruthless slaughterer who is evil just for the sake of being evil. However, this isn't quite the case as you get to know more and more about her character. The way the story portrays her relationship with her mother and brothers, you can understand why Xena became as ruthless as she did. Similarly, you can understand why she fell in love with Hercules, who simply helped her realize that she could be the good guy. Or gal, that is. The way she fell in love with Hercules reminded me of the condition known as transference, where you fall in love with your therapist. Her relationship with Gabrielle is honestly relationship gold, be it platonic or romantic. I think all of us wish we had a partner like Gabrielle, if not a best friend like her. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.